always sounds
Well, these boys encourage I'm over there for a long time. This Jackie gonna come up there long. Yeah. Got some more races too. Yeah. Party time. Yeah. Can't see and of course, that's not like that. See, right now we're good.
That's kind of a brand new thing coming start.
Good.
Good morning, guys.
It looks like one hand got swollen in the end.
And what's this?
That's funny. That's on Saturday. I was very wrong. What do you think about that? You ever seen those cartoons where he's like, hey, we're down for done. There's a goal. It's called Girl, I got Refined. Called Refined. It's a cartoon. I put in my 2 day notice. I'm gonna read shit.
Guys, I just want to put everybody's name and faces.
Not everybody's in the room today, right now. There's still not everybody here.
Yeah, I got a bag to get up here, but some of them I know is Brown and you sitting there. I know him pretty well.
What about me?
Mr. Carter, he's not here either. Mr. Bell.
Mr. Bell, he's going to be out. Oh, exactly. Didn't you get that? I think Bell.
Are you building Dakota and Mr. Mitchell? Jamal? Carol Shaw.
Things in the kitchen.
Mr. Cunningham. And Sam. Him.
Cigar.
Jeffrey, Santana, Nicholas, Aaron Allen, Dallas,
Pat
Matt
Bates.
Woo! That's my name. God, you
Gregory Adams, Daniel Boudin, Cleveland, Thomas, Billy Blankenship. Anybody name I missed calling? Thank you. I'm just trying to look. Sometimes I'm in there doing paperwork and stuff, and your name comes across my desk, and I don't know. I want to make sure I do. I don't know who everybody was. Yes, and it's across my desk this morning. We have about 5 or 6 incident reports that came up over the weekend. We will be meeting for those. If your name is on there, you come to my office. It's not a big thing. I don't want anybody to freak out over having to come to my office for an incident report. Incident reports get written for little small things. You know, like if the drug count is off, if they count whatever your prescription is and they miscount it by 1 pill, then it's off, and that's a incident report. They have to write an incident report on it. So if they write that incident report, I have to talk to you. So it's don't think it's a big deal. Sometimes it is a big deal. Like if you kill somebody over the weekend, that's an incident report. Yeah,
Don't do that.
Yeah, just don't freak out over it. It's no big deal. It's just documentation stuff we have to do. So I have like 5 or 6. It's quite a few.
Yeah. You know what so much then? Every morning.
Okay. Hey, what is out there?
Was it a black lady? Yeah. White skin? Yes. You want to slide? Hey, wait, Jeff. Right? Next popcorn. Next
All right, it's just about time to get started. This week is spiritual week. Spiritual week, talking about spirituality and our recovery. So we're going to be talking a little bit about spirituality all week long, but we're also going to be adding some other stuff into it. This morning we're going to be talking about the 12 steps a little bit. We did that not too long ago, but I want to look at it from a little bit of a different angle this morning. And so we'll be looking at the 12 steps. So make sure that you get your name on your sign-in sheet. If you're TAP, put it on TAP. If you're HHSC, put it on that. Make sure it's legible.
Where are those at?
Say it again?
Where are the signs?
I don't know. They're supposed to be coming in over there, but look, we only have this. We only have one RA here this morning, so they should be in the drawer over there somewhere. So we'll find those and get them handed out here pretty quickly. Maybe at break I'll go over there and find them. I'm not exactly sure where they are over there, but we'll get them. But when we do get them, y'all get your names put on there and make sure that they're readable, so I can know who you are. Same thing at North. Y'all, you do a pretty good job over there at North. I appreciate that. And we'll get that done. Our goal today is to learn a little bit more about the 12 steps and see how they're going to help us in spirituality and how spirituality itself helps us. So, who is this?
Coda. Shut up.
No, this is Janie Mae.
Who?
Janie Mae.
Janie.
Yeah, I don't think Janie Mae.
Janie Mae.
Yeah, and I don't know her very well. I just met her this morning, so I don't know what her issues are, but I can just about tell you that she does have some issues. So she's in treatment this morning, and she's looking at the 12 steps to try to see if the 12 steps are going to be helpful to her and all of that stuff. I do have, and we'll get them right after group this morning. I have you some bulletins today. It was my turn to do the bulletins, so we did bulletins this morning. But you can't get them until after group. So our goal is to just learn a little bit more about the Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps and stuff that they use. But before we get into it, and look, I do apologize. I have my telephone on this morning. Y'all know that I've had a whole lot of medical issues going over the last few months. I have another, and they're going to be, they're supposed to call me today. And if they don't call me during the first part of this, I'll call them so that they can not interrupt us. But if you have your book, now we do have some new people. Do you have a book? Okay. We're on page 21. We always start the group on page 21 because this shows us the 4 areas that we try to stick to in our program here. And so we have physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, and family health. If we get all of those 4 areas pretty well lined out in our life, we're going to be able to stay sober and do the things we're supposed to do. So, say it again.
What were the 4 areas?
On page 21, physical, emotional, spiritual, and family. We can get those lined out. We're in pretty good shape. So today we're going to begin looking at spiritual health. And look, here's the deal. A lot of the time when we're in our active addiction, we're not really worried too much about God. We're not worried too much about spirituality at all, a higher power, anything like that. Now, that's not true for everyone. Of course, there's always an outlier. There's always some people who are different than what we're talking about, right? But this morning, we're going to assume that most people, not everybody, because I've had people tell me, well, that's not me. Okay, that's not you. But most people are not real spiritually attuned when they're in their addiction. Most of the time, my addiction is my God. My addiction is my higher power. My addiction is what's driving my existence and all of that kind of stuff.
Are you okay this morning?
No, I'm not okay. I don't feel all that well this morning, so y'all just look over me a little bit, and I appreciate you asking. Thank you, sir. I know you care deeply for me, so I appreciate it. I know. Yeah. So one of the things that happens to us when we come into trying to get into recovery, not necessarily into treatment, but into recovery, sometimes, one of the things that happens to us is that we are unfamiliar with spiritual things. We're more been focused on who we are and what we need and what we want and what's going on with us. So we're just not focused on spiritual things, and we're totally unfamiliar with that. A lot of us, myself included, were not raised up in a spiritual environment. My dad and my mom, they were not spiritual at all. They didn't. We didn't go to church. We didn't do any of those things. We didn't pray at home. We didn't do any of those kinds of things. So when I started trying to look at some spiritual aspects in my life, I was totally unfamiliar with that. I didn't know what the heck people, when I went to AA, they said you got to have a higher power, and I had no idea what they were talking about. What's a higher power? And then they talked about you can have the doorknob, or you can have the group, or anything else. Well, I always thought, and I know I've told you guys before, that I thought the doorknob thing was just a little bit beyond anything that I wanted to think about. But, I thought maybe, hey, the group, they could be my higher power because there's 20 of y'all, 19 actually, and one of me, so you're much more powerful than I am. By myself. So that could be part of the group. And then I started reading the 12 steps, and there's a place in there that says, I'm going to turn my life and my will over to the control of my higher power. And I got to thinking, I'm not going to turn my life and my will over to Dakota. There ain't no way. He can't even pay attention in group. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to turn my life and my will over to him. So I began to search for something that was a little bit different than the group, a little bit different than the doorknob, and a little bit different than other things. So I was totally unfamiliar when I began. The other thing that we hit upon a lot is unwilling. I'm just unwilling to believe there's something beyond me. I've met 1,000 people who were just unwilling to believe that there was a spiritual aspect to the universe that was beyond myself. They're just unwilling to look at that. But look, here's the deal. We have to get to the place where we're at least willing to accept the fact that there may be. There may be. When you go to AA, NA, or something like that, we want you to have a higher power, something that is beyond you, something that can do something, someone that can do a little bit more about it than you can. So sometimes, most of the time, we're not familiar with a spiritual life, or we've been unwilling to accept the existence of spiritual matters. So, okay, there's a lot of folks like that. We're not by ourselves in that, so we can say, okay, that's something that I'm going to have to look at. Is it absolutely necessary for you to believe in a power greater than yourself to get yourself into recovery? No, no, no. There are all sorts of different ways to get into recovery. I happen to believe that it's harder. I don't think that I could have gotten myself into a place where there was, where I was in my recovery without God. I don't think that I could have done that. I don't think that I could have maintained that. I don't think that the 24th of this month, which is a Tuesday, if y'all looking for me on that Tuesday, don't look real hard because I'm not going to be around here. That's my 53rd wedding anniversary. And so, I'm going to tell you this, without God in my life, and He wasn't in my life for all of that time, but without Him in my life, I'm going to guarantee you I couldn't have stayed married to that girl for 53 years. I keep telling everybody, I've been married for 53 years, and it was 7 of the best years I've ever had. The rest of them are a little shaky. So here's the deal. Here's what I ask of people when we do the spiritual week and all of that stuff, is just to keep an open mind. Just be willing to think about it. Just be willing to take a look about it. I'm not going to think any less of you if you say, well, I don't believe there's anything above me, okay? If you got that kind of ego, that's fine, but I'm not going to think any less of you, right? And if you say, well, hey, I believe everything you believe, I'm not going to think any more of you, right? Right? I'm your counselor, not your friend, not your lover, not your any of those things. I'm your counselor, okay? So, yeah, I know I know, yeah, you were hoping to come home, yeah, but that's not going to happen. So, here's what we're going to talk about real quickly. And, we'll get through this today, and then tomorrow we'll have something different. On Tuesdays, we don't do, I'm not going to be, just a little housekeeping stuff, I don't do group on Tuesdays anymore. I have a meeting that I have to be in on Tuesdays now.
Every Tuesday?
Every Tuesday, I'm in that meeting. I know. And then Wednesdays I will be, Thursdays I will be, and then Fridays, guess what? Not on Fridays. We don't do group on Fridays because I know. I would, if I were you, I would complain because it's like you're not getting all your money's worth.
Yeah.
The fact that somebody else is paying for it, that's kind of, different. But so Alcoholics.
Friday.
I understand. Alcoholics Anonymous is a 12-step program. And most everybody knows what all of this is. We refer you to Alcoholics Anonymous or NA or CA or something. When you leave here, does that mean you have to go? No. We refer you to it, but you don't necessarily have to go. We're going to tell you that it's a good idea. It's a real good idea because this thing is hard to do by yourself, and your family usually is not somebody that's going to be really good at helping you stay in that. Your sponsor and people like that, those people, that's what they do. That's why they're there. Sponsors are trying to give back, so that's what they're doing. And step 12 tells us to give back what we've learned. And so we're trying to give back. So, it's a good thing to do that. So we refer you to that, and we also refer you to a sponsor. We want you to get out, go to 12-step meetings, and get a sponsor. Because we want you to get every tool that you can to stay sober. Is it a guarantee that if you get out of here, you start going to a 12-step meeting 4 times a week, and you have 2 sponsors, and is it a guarantee that you're going to stay sober? No, it's not. It's not. But if it'll help, I went the other day to get a part for. I went and bought me a battery for my RV, and it was $124 for this battery. And I got a military discount. My military discount was $12. And so they took that, I get a 10% military discount. So that when I paid the bill, it was $124, exactly what the stupid battery cost. So my military discount paid for the tax, right? So that's a good thing. I mean, it's only 10%, but is it worth it? Absolutely. It's $12. Everywhere I go, when I go out to eat, everything else, my wife and I went out to eat at IHOP over here Friday night, and the gal gave us me a discount for being old and for being a veteran. So I was an old veteran, and when you go over to IHOP, that stuff's pretty expensive, but my meal cost me $6. So that was good.
You should have got 2 discounts for being old and a veteran.
I did. She gave me a discount for being an old veteran. I don't know if that worked well for her or not, but it was, it was all right. It was all right for me. The point is that if we go to AA, if we go to NA, if we start working the 12 steps, there's no guarantee that there's not 100% guarantee that that's going to keep me sober. But if it gives me 5%, 10% better chance, then it's worth doing it. So I need to go do it. And one of the things we try to get us to go here, we make sure that we have some here so that we can get used to doing that. And it's not a really weird thing. I remember the first group that I went into, that was a really weird thing. It was a strange thing. So here's the deal. Alcoholics Anonymous is a 12-step program where members work the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous as outlined in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. How many people know why they call it the big book?
Because you told us that when you were
Go ahead.
because you explained to us that when the guy had it printed up,
Yeah.
and he said that's a mighty big book.
So that's what it's been called ever since. They printed it because they didn't have any money. They printed it on the cheapest paper they could, which was big and coarse and all of that stuff. And that first big book was thick, 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 thick. So old Brother Bill there, he said, "Man, that's a big book." And I said, "Okay." That's what it's been ever since. So 1932, 33, something like that. So a worksheet simplifies. We've got some stuff like that. There's all sorts of stuff, but there are 4 phases that it goes through to get us into some type of recovery. So we want to understand those 4 phases as we go through the 12 steps and look at some of those steps. The 12 steps or the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous can be divided into 4 phases, each containing 3 steps. This structure, this was developed by Bill Wilson and outlined in the pages of the big book, and I think we have some of those around here. Need to be looking at those. So that helps break down what might seem overwhelming and get it to a place where it is a little bit more manageable. Focus work that builds on itself as a group of principles. And so that's a good thing to know. This big book is exactly what it sounds like. It's a big book. So we need to take a look at that. The very first thing, the first phase is phase 1. That makes sense? Yep. Yeah, there you go. The first phase is just accepting our condition.
These are the steps.
Wants us to accept our condition. Now let me tell you something. See all this paperwork? It's probably going to take us a minute to get through this, and I tend to ramble. So y'all know that. But if there's anybody here that wants this stuff, you can have it. I'll make you a copy. Well, yeah, this is the first phase. First phase. That's not the first step. That's the first phase. We're going to go over the steps. This is the first phase, accepting our condition. So, the first phase brings us to the acknowledging we have a problem with alcohol abuse or drug abuse or whatever it is, to the point where we come to understand that there is only one way to deal with it. These initial steps address core issues that form the foundation of recovery. So the first step is, look, this is the thing that helped me a whole bunch of lot. Admitting powerlessness. So the first step is what?
Admitting powerless.
Yeah, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. What does that mean? I have no power over it.
I don't get my glasses.
I wish you would, man. It's hard to see without that. Okay. Take a break, get glasses. All right, here's the deal. This step is critical in moving toward a better life and often represents the beginning of a profound personality change. When I got to the place where I understood that, and it's absolutely true, I'm totally, utterly powerless. I don't have any power over it. When I'm addicted to something, that means I have no power over it. We need to get a hold of that because, look, here's the deal. I'm not any more powerful now than I was when I stopped using. So the fact is that I can go back out there and at any moment, I can trip and start using again. So I still am not, I don't have any power over the alcohol, and I am an alcoholic. I don't have any power over that at all. So I have to stay away from it entirely, completely. I have very little power over sugar, so I have to stay away from that. I have, I'm not going to tell you all about that, but there's other things. I was going to tell you, I don't have any power at all over sex, but I don't want to tell you all that. That's getting a little bit too deep. So I'm going to keep that to myself. So, yeah. So I have, there are some things that I'm powerless over at that point in time. I'm just powerless over. And if we get to the place where we believe and we understand that we are powerless over the stuff, that means I have no power over it. I can't do anything about it. I can't quit using on my own. I'm not going to be able to do it. I just can't do it. And, because I don't have any power over it. I've talked to probably thousands of people down through the years, and hundreds of them have come and told me that they have developed power. It's not possible. It's not possible. We can't develop enough power in ourselves in order to be able to deal. If we did, we wouldn't be here. If we did, we wouldn't have the issues that we have today. So we can't build that. The other thing, because I am powerless, then my life has become what? Unmanageable. It's become unmanageable. That means that, hey, I can't manage my own life. And again, let me share this with you. If I could manage my own life, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be in this environment if I could manage my own life. I have sat where you're sitting today because I could not manage my own life. So I had to have. Actually have a couple of people, more than a couple of people in my life that help me to manage my life now. I have my higher power, which is first and foremost, that helps me to manage my life. And I have my wife who helps me to manage my life. And I have my sponsor, and I have some sober support people. All of those folks are helping me to manage my life. So when I got to the place where I understood that I was powerless over it, I had a personality change. It will humble you a little bit. A lot of us, not everybody, and I know some of you in this room are completely not in this. This doesn't define you at all. But a lot of us are at the place where we have so much of an ego that we believe that we're powerful enough on ourselves to do all that. And some of us in this room are pretty powerful people. We are. But we're not powerful enough in that area to do anything about what's going on. So this changes my personality a bit. Yes?
That flag just blew off the flagpole over there. It's on the ground. That's not cool. That's all. You give him a call.
You see it? With you being a veteran and all, you should take that very seriously and give him a call.
Well, I would have said it.
I don't see it.
Exactly. Truck, sir.
The black Bugman truck.
Call your boy. Yeah, that ain't
Want me to go pick it up?
No.
See it right there. You can walk over there and tell. See the black Bugman truck?
I will take care of that. And look, let me share a little something with you. Me as a veteran, I should share something about you as an American.
That's right.
Yep. Oh, I had to kill 3 people.
Oh,
Yes.
It's the Russian y'all.
Yeah, Russians. But they do that. Yeah, we do that.
Now it's back on God. It's my new problem. Boom.
All right, I'm gonna send this other veteran over there to get it. He wasn't in the army, but he was in the Navy.
That's right. See that. That's right. See that.
He was actually E7 in the Navy and was in the Navy for 20 years. So he's going to go get that up. So here's the deal. It changes our personnel. Thank you for bringing that, Santana. It's the first time we face the fact that we can't manage our life. We've been out there and doing all of this kind of crazy mess, and we think, I can manage this, I can do that. We get into relationships that are dangerous for us. We go places that are dangerous for us. We do things that are dangerous for us, and we believe we can manage it this time, we can do it this time, but we can't. So we need to get to the place where we understand that. So we need to, that's the first thing, I need to know in myself. And look, that's, we go over that pretty quickly sometimes, but look, that's a big, huge step, right? Believing that about myself, looking into myself and understanding that I don't have the power to do what I need to do to get myself into my recovery is a huge stinking step. That's amazing. And then understanding that because I don't have that power, I am unable to manage my own life. Somebody else has to manage my life, or I have to have help managing it. So that brings us to our second step in that first phase, and it is finding hope in a higher power. I have to have hope in a higher power. So step 2 says this, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Yeah. And here's the deal. If you look at the DSM-5, that's the statistical manual that we as therapists look in to find mental issues, you will find drug and alcohol abuse and all of that kind of stuff in there. And that's because the addiction that we suffer with right now is considered a mental health issue. So that's why we have therapists that work with us and for us here, because this is not just a physical thing; it's a mental health issue.
The third week in a row they canceled.
Say it to me again.
This is the third week in a row they canceled therapy with me.
Yeah. You see that? They had therapy with him one time, and after that they've canceled it every time for the last 3 weeks. No, we ain't doing that. No. Well, I do apologize for that. You should be talking to your counselor and telling them, hey, I need some help. I need some help me. And they will, and I do apologize. That's not something that should be happening. Something, I don't know why that is, and find that out. So we came to believe that a higher power, can help me get to that place where I need to be, can restore me to sanity, because what we're doing now is insane. Look, here's the deal. Think about that. If you go out, what is the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results.
Yeah, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Yeah, we all know that. Here's the deal. When we know that it's just like smoking cigarettes. If I know that I put this in my body, it's going to destroy my family, destroy my life, destroy my health, destroy my work, then to go do it is insane. It is totally insane to continue doing that. Because here's the deal. Somebody says, look, this little pill right here, it's going to destroy your life. It's going to destroy your family's going to hate you. Your job's going to fire you. Your health is going to go down the tubes. Nobody's going to love you. Everybody's going to hate you. It's going to be terrible. But you want to take it? Yeah. That's insane. We only take it because somebody says all of that's going to happen, but you'll feel goofy for a little while if you do. Okay. All right. So it's an insane thing that we do. So we want a higher power in our lives to help us get back to that place of sanity. So, if we're thinking about that, we need to look at some things. What would our higher power look like? What would it look like, and what would we do if we were agnostic or atheist? What's an agnostic? What's an ag? Go ahead.
Somebody that's without knowledge of God.
Say it again.
Without knowledge.
Somebody without knowledge of God. That's not quite.
I think it's somebody that they don't say that it's not a God. They just that it is.
Yeah, I think that's a little closer. The definition of an agnostic is somebody that says there may be a God, but he hasn't proven himself to me yet. There may be one, I just don't know it. There may be a God. So that's an agnostic. What's an atheist?
Somebody doesn't believe.
Somebody that does not believe that there's any spirituality at all, that does not believe that there is a God at all. And there's plenty of people out there, and okay, if that's your belief, right? All right, okay. So, if you're an agnostic or an atheist, can you still go to an AA? Can you still get some help from that? Yeah. Yeah, because AA, let me tell you, every step in AA has spiritual connotations to it. Bill was a Christian. He was sold out to the Lord Jesus Christ, and he wanted to help people because of that. And he was an alcoholic, and he wanted to help people because of that. Okay? But then he came to the understanding that I need to help people whether they want to believe the way I believe or not. So that's why we say you come to our group. You don't have to believe in our God. You can believe in the doorknob. You can believe in the group. You can believe in whatever. But you come on, because what we're doing here in AA is trying to get you sober. Get you sober first, and then get you into a lifestyle of recovery. That's what we're trying to do. It ain't church. It's spiritual in nature, but it's not church. Just like here. This program is spiritual in nature, but it's not church. It's not church. We're not going to have church, but it is spiritual in nature. So, but you can get spirituality. Is spirituality found in churches? Yeah, some of them. Some of them, there's just so many rules and regulations that the religion has pushed out the spirituality, but there is spirituality in a bunch of churches out there. There's also spirituality in our backyard. You want to go out and sit on the table out there and watch the squirrels run around up and down the trees and watch the trees blow in the wind, which has slacked up a little bit, thank God. Then you can find spirituality in that. And I often talk about the fact, maybe too much, but when my wife and I go on our little trips and stuff, we go to state parks. Because, we love to go in state parks. There's always water, and there's trees, and there's flowers, and there's, I got a lot of pictures of deer and stuff like that that's out there in the state parks. And it's just a good place to get into some spiritual things. So I'm finding that hope in a higher power. So the next thing I want to understand is, what is my understanding of sanity? And what is my perception of its value? What is my understanding of sanity?
Well,
all right, so I guess that could be taken more than one way for the definition of
I
sanity.
think you're right.
Because they say a crazy person sometimes sees the world more clearly than sane. It's the same.
Okay.
And
Okay.
it can go both ways of being sane. Thinking you're sane, and people thinking you're insane.
I'm thinking too, you know, I think what they're talking about is just being cognizant of my own actions. Just knowing what I'm doing from moment to moment. And when I was on my drug, I did not know what I was doing from moment to moment. I can remember sitting on my front porch and then I'm coming to myself. You know, I'd been in a blackout and I'd wake up, and one of the first things I'd want to do is walk around my truck to see if there was any bangs or bings or blood. You know, because I really didn't know what I had done. And that is an insane place to do. Put something in my body that's going to make me just completely forget everything, not know anything. And that's insane. You know, but being cognizant of what I'm doing from moment to moment to moment, I think is a good understanding of sanity. And not doing something. Understanding that there are things that I can't do, that there are places I can't go, that there are people I can't deal with, I can't have in my life anymore. That's sanity. Thinking, look, now y'all don't get crazy on me, but thinking that I can go back out and meet with the same people that I have used drugs with 30, 40 different times and not use drugs, that's insane. It's an impossibility. Can't do it. You just can't do it. You know, if I believe in my believer that I can go back out and do the exact same things I've always done, that I can live the lifestyle that I was living before and still stay sober, that's insane. That's not true. It's insane. So, why is relying on a higher power necessary to achieve sanity and peace of mind? Why do I need to rely on a higher power, someone other than myself, someone outside myself, someone more powerful than me to stay sane? Yes, sir.
Because God holds our thoughts in place,
Okay.
basically. And he has all the knowledge, and we only have just a little piece of knowledge.
Okay.
And he also uses people to give us that knowledge.
Okay.
You know, that's
Okay.
for a higher power for me, higher power is God first, and the group.
Yeah, I believe all of that.
Yeah, I was thinking of something along the same line, whatever that high power may be. You have failed 100 times yourself.
Right.
Believe that something, you know, whether it's another guy, whether it's Muhammad, whether it's whoever, it's important, you know, because you have that much faith in that entity that it can restore you to sanity. So you believe.
Yeah. And it said, why is relying on a higher power? That means I'm not only just believing in one, I'm relying on that higher power to take action in my life. So why is it imperative that I not only believe that, but I rely on that because I cannot do it myself? I have come to believe that I am powerless over my addiction. I'm powerless over 2 or 3 different things in my life. And without someone who has more power to do more things in my life, I won't be able to deal with it. So, did we get our sign-in sheets going? We don't have any sign-in sheets. So. All right, now here's step 3. Is in that same phase, and we're going to finish out that phase, and we may take a break after that phase. But here's the 3rd step.
What was our second?
The 2nd step was came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Could restore us to sanity. Now the 3rd step made a decision to turn our will and our lives over the care of God as we understood Him. Now, the as we understood Him was put in years later. The very first big book said to the care of God. Because they were talking about the Lord Jesus Christ at that point in time. But they put some, because we wanted not only to help Christian people, or they wanted not only to help Christian people come to an understanding and get off drugs and alcohol, but they wanted everybody. We wanted everybody, Buddhists and Muslims and Indians and whatever, to be able to come off of drugs and alcohol through the program. And they have. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people have managed to do that. And this is why I have made the decision years and years and years and years ago that the group cannot be my higher power. The group cannot be my higher power because I'm not willing to turn my life and my will over to you or over to my AA group. Really nice guys, really wonderful people. I got some sweet people in my group. Not going to turn my life and my will over to you. Not going to do that. Not to another human being. Not going to do that. But to my higher power, I will certainly do and have done that. And there's been times in my life when it was obvious that I would not make it that day if it wasn't for my higher power. So, made a decision to turn our lives and our will over to the care of God as we understood Him. Here's the deal. In step 2, we became aware of a higher power and now reach out to that higher power. Here's the thing. If I choose a higher power, if I decide that I'm going to turn my life and my will over to a higher power, that doesn't mean that I'm going to do that one time. That's a daily thing that I do every day. I do that on a daily basis. I get up in the morning and I turn my life and my will over to my Lord that morning. And I have prayer time. I talk to my higher power from the time I leave my house until the news comes on 30 minutes later. And on the way home today, I'm going to have some time with my higher power. During the day, I have some time with my higher power. So it's a thing that has to permeate your life. It becomes, this morning, I've already been hit with, the stuff that's in my life. I haven't had a desire to use any alcohol today, but there's other things in my life, that comes up that I passed by 2 or 3 different donut shops on the way to work.
Did stop?
No, I did not stop, but I'm going to guarantee you I passed by that thing. And the devil says, them people up there that you work with, they love a donut. Y'all stop and get them donut and put it in look, if I put a donut in, y'all know how donuts smell.
Like Colossians,
Yeah. Oh, I know, I understand. Yeah, kolaches and donuts. We went to church yesterday, and on the way back from church, you have to pass by a Krispy Kreme shop.
Oh, yeah.
That ought to be against the law. They ought not be able to put them Krispy Kreme shops. They ought to have them like hidden somewhere. You ought to have to, go off in the woods or something. Find Krispy. They shouldn't be out there on the front main street. But people pass by there, and oh my God,
Your benefit, right?
I'll say it again.
Your benefit.
Just for my benefit. Yeah, I just want that to happen. But it's not going to happen like that. So when we came, it's not just about saying, okay, I know that there's a power greater than myself. Look, I realize I know that there is a power greater than myself, and I'm going to interact with that power. I want to make that power a part of my life.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to a place where everybody ought to know it. And in my life, they know it. I'm not the best Christian you're ever going to meet, but I'm one of the most vocal. I'm going to tell you that's who I am. You know, I'm a preacher, I'm a pastor, I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of the Lord Jesus Christ, and you're going to know that. If you know me more than a couple of minutes, you're going to know that. If that affects you, great. If it doesn't affect you, that ain't my business. You know, but you're going to know that. There's a place in the Word of God that says if you deny Him, He'll deny you, and that ain't going to happen. Not in my life. You know, it's just not. I've had people tell me, well, that makes me uncomfortable. Well, okay. Sorry about that there. Sorry about that there. That's not uncomfortable. That's conviction. Maybe you need to come to my office and talk. Yes.
What does it look like internally? How do you know that you've done the step 3 correctly?
How do you know that you've done step 3? That's a really good question. How do you know that you've done step 3 correctly? Yeah. Well, I'm asking everybody. How do you know? How do I know that I have done step 3 correctly?
You have to look at yourself.
Yeah, as long as you feel it in
You
your
gotta do
heart.
a fearless and moral inventory.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But step 3 says, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Let me tell you something. I've been saved, sanctified, and sliding into heaven for many, many years. And have I allowed God to have all of my will and all of my life every moment of that time? No. I have done everything that I could, you know, and here's the thing. I think you have to go and you have to just tell your higher power, look, I'm turning my will and my life over to you. What do you want me to do? What would you have me to do? My life belongs to you. I am a slave. I've been bought by the blood of Jesus. So my life belongs to you. I'm out here because I believe this is where God would have me at this moment in my life. But there are times, look, I get up and I have these strange desires and these other things, and I just know that's not God's will for me. So a lot of the time, I'm going to pull my will back and say, hey, I'm turning my whole life and my whole will over to you, but for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to pull that back. So we do that because you know what? Christians and people who have a higher power of any calling, they are not perfect. They haven't turned all that stuff over. And, you know, sometimes we step back into the muck and the mire that we were in. So, you know, just turning it over and then doing the very level best to follow our higher power as best we can, I think is the correct way to do it. Yes?
I was just going to say, I was always told that some people not understanding the whole part that you say that it's just like your bill, cost your basically trying to cost your actions.
Yeah. That's a good way of saying it. I'm turning my thoughts and my actions over to my higher power. But then when I began to think the wrong thing, see, I've had just about everybody in here say, I got me a higher power, man. Now I'm turning my thoughts and my will and everything over to the Lord Jesus and everything over to my higher power and everything. And then one of these young ladies walked through here and my will takes over. See, just like I said, you know, like I said, absolutely. And immediately we know, hey, I haven't completely turned it over to my higher power, have I? I have not completely turned it over to my higher power. So that's a battle that we'll be fighting for the rest of our lives.
Some little foxes.
That's a good way to say it. Yeah, that's those little foxes. There's a place in there that says the little foxes spoil the vine. You know, so anyway, that was good. This is the beginning. Look, becoming aware of a higher power, and now reach out to that higher power on a daily basis, on an hourly basis. You know, I'm trying to find that higher power in my life. This is the beginning of our spiritual experience and marks a significant shift in our way of life. I see, you know, when I'm going home at night and stuff, it doesn't matter what day it is. Doesn't matter what day it is. You can go by the bars You know, there's bars on, and they'll be full. You know, and a lot of those people are us. And, you know, people have a little bit of an issue, or some of us who have a large issue, and every day of the week we're in there following after that as hard as we can. And then, you know, you go by the church on Sunday morning, and 90% of the parking lot is empty. So we're not following after spirituality as hard as we're following after Budweiser. Y'all do know that Budweiser is the most sold beer in America, right? It's the number one beer in America.
Budweiser.
Why is that?
We just make you wise.
Red, white, and blue, baby.
It's got the
Don't
highest
make-
alcohol.
It's the king of beer.
Yes.
Cheap.
Now,
It's endorsed by the
Every
military.
word wiser.
it's because Budweiser. It's because they spend billions on advertising. They got those big old horses. What they don't tell you is that they feed those big old horses grain, and then they go out and they catch that horse tinkle, and that's what they put in the can. And, you know, so so anyway. That's the beginning of spiritual experience. It marks a significant shift in our way of life. So we need to know that we are doing some things that are going to do that. Now, here's the deal. We got a couple of more of these stages we're going to look at. So I want to look at one more. We're going to read one more stage and then one more portion of stage. So we're going to, this is steps 4 through 6 is the phase 2. And phase 2 tells us to review our past. Stage 2 wants us to be aware of what we've done, wants us to be aware of where we've come from. This is critical to staying sober, and one of the things that's critical to staying sober is the achievement of emotional sobriety. We don't often get there. So what does sobriety mean?
A lifestyle change.
Sobriety means just being sober. Recovery means a lifestyle change. So I just can't get sober and expect to stay that way. I have to change my whole lifestyle. Nothing has to change except everything. So we want to, critical of staying sober is to have emotional sobriety. This phase can be terrifying. It can be a scary thing, but the end results are catharsis and freedom from our former self. What does catharsis mean?
Like a mutual.
Catharsis means a total, absolute change. So it has to change completely. These steps form a daily part of our lives as we learn to examine ourselves honestly. Is to be honest with ourselves first. You know, we often talk about the first thing we have to do when we get into our recovery is what?
Admit that we're powerless.
Yeah, get honest. Admit that we're powerless. Get honest with ourselves. I can't do this on my own. I have so many people argue with me about the old people, places, and things stuff. You need to get honest with it. The old people, places, and things, we have old people out there that are still using. We have old places out there that we used to use in. We have old things out there that we used to do while we use. We have to give those up. If we don't give those up, we don't get honest and say, hey, I cannot stay sober if I go back to all of that. We're not going, well, our chances, and there's always that small chance, but our chances of being sober are very slim. Slim to none.
And bring back the euphoric recalls.
Yeah, they do bring back euphoric recall. Everybody.
Every time I go back to AA, I get drunk. I have no problem. Honestly.
Well, yeah.
When I stay away from AA, I stay sober. From church, I do fine. When I go to AA, I get drunk. It's almost like the organization set up that way.
Well, it's not, but it is for you. So here's my
Yeah, it might be for me, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, because it's helped millions and millions and millions of people. So here's the deal: if that's true, and I have no reason to believe it's not. What in flip are you doing going back to AA? You go back to AA because you want to use. And you know if I go back to AA, I'm going to hear some war stories, and it's going to make me want to use. So when I get really fired up and I want to use, I'm going to go to AA, and I'm going to so stay out of AA if it's doing you that. You know, you know better.
I'm not saying
Don't go there. Yeah.
The war
So
stories.
you do hear war stories in AA, and it is therefore good reason because look, we're supposed to the 12 steps tell us that we're supposed to share that stuff with another human being, and sometimes it's really hard. But look, getting it out, getting it shared helps me. That's not for other people. But if I'm going there and that triggers me, let me tell you something. I'm not going to go somewhere that triggers me. I hear war stories every time I go. And when I see the people over there, they'll tell that war story, and then after it moves on from them, I watch them, and it's like this big weight is off their shoulders. They feel so much better. And I know, okay, that's helpful for them. But see, I don't have to let that war story trigger me. If it does, then I'm gonna stay away from that.
You know, and I hear what he's saying, and I'm completely opposite. I can do something stupid 1,000 times, but the second you do it in front of me or tell me about it, I get it. I realize how stupid it is. But I can do it.
And that's another thing that is good.
So the stories help me.
They do. And yes, and you're entirely correct. And here's one of the reasons the story helps me, because look, I get to the place where I'm believing I'm unique. Nobody else has this issue but me. This is just me. I'm the only person in group that wants to touch the man next to me impulsively. I want to put my hands on him all day long. I want to keep touching him. You know, try to pull him out of his help so he don't get anything from you know. But here, I'm not the only person that alcohol and drugs has done this to, but I feel like I am. And so my disease will tell me you have to keep it a secret. You remember what AA tells us? You're only as sick as what? Your secrets. And so when we go to AA and these guys around us are saying, this is my story, this is what happened, then I can see I'm not the only one. It happened to him. Same thing, the exact same thing happened to him. It happened to her. It happened to that lady. It happened to that guy. So that helps me a whole lot. But if I'm going to AA and the war stories that we hear, they're going to trigger me, and I'm going to go get drunk. I'm not gonna go. But we have to change the way we're looking at that. See how it's helping them and how it's helping us. And so, you know, but I don't know that I would go and try to do it if it did me like it's doing. So,
Well, I'm not saying it's the war stories.
Could be.
Definitely.
well, I wouldn't say again, whatever it's doing it, I wouldn't be. So, these steps become a daily part of our lives as we learn to examine ourselves honestly. And we're going to look at that when we get back at 15 minutes after. We're going to have a good little break. We haven't gotten to it yet. We're going to get to it here as soon as we get back.
Hey, radio.
That works. 1, 2, 3, Get a little easier. Yeah, that way I can work on mine. That's the action step. Awesome. Thank you.
Just a little bit. I knocked out my phone. My process. What did you say? What did he say?
Go get a red book.
No, I'm not saying what they are. You said, I'm still talking about this.
Right now. Where at? I just know the steps.
I know
Back up to that. So that was still a I think she's on.
So what did happen in life? Did the ground turn up?
One of the swings on the
The man was then.
Oh, yeah.
Where's the therapy session?
Okay.
Answer.
Nice, like, surprises.
Okay. Right now.
I didn't even go outside, sorry, no.
Smoke.
She had a weekend at home, you know.
I love it. Go, CC's Pizza. I love CC's. We got blue water. Got that water.
Yeah.
Don't take it off.
Oh.
It keeps it there for the camera.
I was just gonna see what the first
Yeah, it's
three
very
were.
important. It keeps it there to keep both the cameras. Oh, you get one of them.
Yeah. I would.
I never. I can't see anyone.
The what? Okay, sorry. That know what we're talking about. In the future? So, national thought.
Saying, wow, wait, Blow that turn.
You know, he was practicing real.
I don't give a shit now. I'm a whole captain.
And Mr. Washington, not so, not
Think so. Well, there's a high probability.
When you go to sleep,
no, not that. The other one, where everything is about that.
the north.
No, yeah. Shit, he talked about the whole.
He said, I don't know how I dealt with it.
Yeah,
He said, I don't know how she dealt with you.
I'm trying to tell you.
What's wrong with her?
Shit, she must be some kind of saint. Must have married Mother Teresa. That damn way, man. Murder dog. He should be on that show where they murder the spouse, try to get away with it. That's what she should be on. I could have bet him to fit now. Well, both sides, he got that stuff.
We both stand that so that,
I told so now.
Oh.
Oh, man.
Bring back evidence. Little rat, mom. Hey. I wish I had you.
Regive.
Wish I had you.
Regive.
Hey. That's what it is.
That's next. Hey, I'll show you, see back out on Trustee Farm. They have the hand that you get, and pull them out, and you ride out in the sun, and you roll up cigarettes and sell them cigarettes.
Damn.
Man, I don't think it's smoke on the crazy.
I don't know, I just,
That's nasty.
that's nasty. That's
Oh, come on, I put the
Well,
smoke.
Damn, baby. What's this for? There's no drink there. No. Drink there.
And up.
Yes, sir.
You don't know what I'm talking about, do you?
I don't know. I'm just giving people. All right, gentlemen. Time to get ourselves started again. Let me share this with you real quickly. I know that some folks are writing all this down, and I appreciate that. That means that you are working toward advancing our goal, which is to learn more about this stuff, and I appreciate that. Some of us have minds that are so sharp that you don't have to do that, but others of us are not quite that. So if you want a copy of this, if you'll just let me know, I will make you a copy. So I got like three sets of them that I'm making now. So if you would do, you just let me know before it's over, and I'll get you one of those. So we're going again. We're going back to the second one, which is reviewing our past. And sometimes that can be really, really a scary thing to do. It was for me. I'm still working on getting it all reviewed again. These steps are living things. We're supposed to continually do it. We don't do the steps one time and then forget them. We continue to work with them. We go over them again and again and again. So once you start working the steps, just keep working them. So the step, the phase 2 begins with the step 4, and step 4 says the searching and fearless moral inventory that we have to take. The step itself says made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. So that's step 4. Yeah, step 4 made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. So that means I have to really get deep into that. I made a searching. That means I look really deeply into there and see just exactly what's going on with me. So after I made a searching moral inventory, I made a fearless. moral inventory. I look at everything. I want to have a moral inventory. I want to know where I am. I want to know what's going on with me. So I made a searching and fearless moral inventory. I want to find out where it is that I need to go spiritually. So, fourth step, the fourth step takes time. It's going to take us a minute to do it. We often need to conquer hesitation. There's a lot of the times I don't want to look at some of the stuff that I did. Because I'm going to tell you, I know I look nice, kind, sweet, and good, and all of that kind of stuff, but I've done some stuff in my life. And I really, I wanted to forget most of that stuff. I wanted to put it back. I didn't want to go back and take a look at it, but it became something that was necessary for me. I need to go back and look so I can figure out who I was and why I needed a higher power to help me work through that. So it takes time. It's this comprehensive inventory serves both as a study guide for understanding who I am and as a force of healing in my recovery. Something I can use in my recovery. So sometimes here's some of the things that I need to look at when I'm making a fearless and searching moral inventory. I need to look at resentments. There are people, institutions, or principles that I have resentments for that just anger me and all of that kind of stuff. I know people who are angry at the police. I know people who are angry at the government. People who are angry at their parents, people who are angry at their spouses. Most of us are angry at who? Ourselves. Most of us are angry at us. So, first thing we need to do is forgive ourselves a little bit. Stop resenting the things that you've done. There's some stuff in my life that I've done that I'm really, really, really not happy with. I'm not, I'm ashamed of, embarrassed by, and all of that kind of stuff. But I did that. I did it. And I need to get back and take a look at that and say, okay, I did that. I accept it. I did it. I've confessed it. I've talked to people about it. I've talked to my God about it. And I've forgiven myself about it. And some of it was hard to do. But I did it. And I've forgiven myself about it. I continually do that. I continually take a look, continually have a fearless moral inventory of myself. I take a look because look, I'm still me, and I still screw stuff up, right? I still insult people. I still do the wrong thing. I still do all of those things, and I have to take that to God. And look, when I mess something up, if I hurt your feelings, or if I do something against you personally, I'm going to be the very first one to come tell you about that. I don't know what she's cooking in there, but man, it ought to be good. One of the other things is fear. One of the things, a lot of the times, we don't want to deal with fear. We don't want to let people know that we have fear in our lives. But what we're afraid of, we need to know. We need to take a look at what we're afraid of, and how does that affect our lives? What's the number one fear in the United States?
Failure.
What is it?
Failure.
Death. Death is number 2.
Failure.
Failure is like 6.
Death itself.
Death itself is number 2.
Being an
I've
adult.
told y'all 900 times. We've talked about it 900 in this group, and some of you are in here. Abandonment. Girls are abandonment. Yeah. The number one fear in the United States, and actually it's the number one fear in the whole world, is public speaking.
What is it?
Public speaking.
Oh,
Yes. And number 2 is death. So we're more afraid of public speaking than we are of dying.
that's wild. What does that mean?
That's wild, but it's true. So, but we need to know what we're afraid of. So men that have anger issues, they have a lot of fear in their life. We used anger to mask the fact that we're afraid. And I've had guys tell me in my anger class, I'm not afraid of nothing. Well, you're right. You're afraid of everything. You're not afraid of nothing. Nothing doesn't fear you. You're not afraid of that. You don't fear that at all, but you're afraid of everything else. So that's just what it is. And we need to go back and take a look at that. We need to know what we're afraid of and how that affects our lives. So, I'm afraid of being sober.
You are?
Yes. I've always been afraid of being sober. When I was using, I was never sober because I was afraid of being sober. I had to put up with all kinds of stuff when I was sober. I have to be myself when I'm sober. I can't be, when we used to go do a lot of dancing and stuff when I was a kid. And man, I could dance really well. But I had to have 6 beers and 2 shots before I could do that. At least. At least. So, harm, we need to take a look at the people we've harmed. There's a lot of people we've hurt and how we've hurt them. I've hurt most of the people in my family I've done harm to. I've got 5 sisters, 2 brothers. I've harmed all of them. Every one of them. So when we're out there using drugs and doing all the stuff that we do, we need to know that it's not just us doing it. It's us doing it, but it just doesn't just harm us. It is harming us, but it's also harming our family, brothers and sisters, and all of those people. They suffer hurt, they suffer harm because of the stuff that we're doing. So the other thing is sexual conduct. We need to look back, and take a look at that, get that in there and get that out, that sexual conduct. When we're high or when we're drunk, what will we do?
Have sex.
We'll do anything. We'll do anything we want to, and we'll have sex with anybody. Your discernment goes down, and the only thing that keeps you from having sex with somebody is not being able to find somebody. We do. And it's a bad thing, because this is why we have the HIV and STD classes, because we'll wait.
No, we'll
it's not that important. We'll wait. I understand. But we will do when we're high or we're drunk. We'll do anything and we'll do anybody, and that's not a good plan, because nowadays, and it's always been out there, but not like it is now. Every third person has something that we don't want. And everybody, when you get to that place, then you feel like that they do have something you want, and they may also have, every third person has something you don't want. Yes, sir.
This time, whenever I relapsed, I was high on meth, you know what I'm saying? I had 2 opportunities.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I just mastered it. You know what I'm saying? Not that I didn't want to. It's just I just didn't do it. She sat in the back seat of my car. We're homeless. She helped me and I helped her out. You know what I'm saying? And she asked me to. I was like, I'm good. She was good looking.
Well, and there are all, and we say this a lot. We talk about it. There's always that outlier. There's always that outlier. There's always, the people that that doesn't apply to. But that just because it doesn't apply to one person, and there's always somebody in the room, like Mr. Santana, that's going to say that doesn't apply. That didn't happen to me. I got high and it didn't work. But look, almost 100% of the time, if you're high, you don't have that. You don't have that perception. You don't have that ability to say no. Now, the fact that he did, okay, that's a great thing. But that's going to happen to most people never. Oh, yes?
I got chlamydia in 1 year by the same girl. And the
Yes.
first time I did it, I knew it. And then I didn't see her for 4 more months. And I slept with her again without asking any questions. Beautiful girl, softball player, red that day. Chlamydia. That's $80 for that prescription to get that shit knocked out. I did that, so that justifies what you're saying there, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. And hey, look, we want to say this as well, that there's always an outlier. There's always that one person that it doesn't apply to. But we never want to look at that one person that it doesn't apply to and say, hey, it doesn't apply to them, so it doesn't apply to me. So that will always get us in a bad place. There's a lady in France that's 101 years old. She drinks a glass of wine and smokes one cigarette every day. And they ask her, why what do you attribute your long life to? I drink one glass of wine. Well, if you live to 101 by drinking a glass of wine and smoking one cigarette a day, you ought to smoke a case of, a carton of cigarettes a day and a case of wine a day. You live to 1,000. That's not why she lived to 101 years old. But we look at that person, and I've had people tell me that. Look, man, my aunt was 93 years old, and she smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Okay. All right. The deal is that may have happened to her, but that's that outlier. And, that's not going to happen to us. If you smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, you're going to take 10, 12, 15 years off of your life. And that's just a natural fact. So, what happened? Our sexual behavior and its impact, there's often an overlap between 2 or more of these things that happen. Sometimes we're going to have 4 or 5 different things that's happening. And so we have to take a look at those things and know who that is for us. So the 5th step is hard as well. The 4th step is hard, coming up with all of that stuff, writing it down. But the 5th step is hard too. It says, look, admit it to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrong. Means tell somebody. And you know what? If you have a higher power, it's pretty easy to talk to your higher power, right? Pretty easy to talk to God. He's not going to tell anybody what you say. You go out there and sit on that thing. Sometimes I'm embarrassed to go talk to him a little bit. I've had to talk to him already today about some stuff. And it was embarrassing, for me to have to go to my God and say, look, this is what's running through my mind, James. And I repent of that. I'm sorry. Okay. So, knowing he forgave me and all of this stuff, because he doesn't just forgive you now. He forgave me when he was hanging on the cross. So I'm given already, all of that kind of stuff. And then I go back and I tell him I'm sorry and all of that kind of stuff. And then I'm sitting there and the same thought ran through my mind. So, it can be detrimental. It can be embarrassing. But we need to admit to God. And then the second one is usually a little bit harder. We have to also admit it to ourselves, right? Sometimes we don't want to admit to ourselves some of the junk that's in our life. We want to keep that, away. We want to keep it hidden. We don't want that. It's okay. We're going to be honest. Sometimes we're going to be honest to God, but sometimes we don't want to be honest to ourselves.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Our question is, Christ came to challenge being taught.
Say that again.
Christ, he came to challenge what was being taught.
Okay.
So when somebody goes against what somebody's trying to teach, that's not a popular thing to do.
No.
But that's what Christ came to challenge.
Yeah.
He come to fulfill it. My question is it good that people challenge what people teach?
Sure. Sure.
Because some people make it seem like you're the issue because you challenge what they have.
No. I'm welcome if unless you're just trying to be a butt.
Yeah.
If you're trying to be a butt, just disrupt the group and stuff like that. No, that's not good at all. But if you have a real issue with what's being taught, Absolutely. And we'll go back and take a look and see what the deal is. And look, I've had people in this group before have something and they were right and we change it. You know, but when when you're not right, I'll tell you that as well. I'll let you know. And a lot of the times, what happens to one person doesn't happen to every person. Is that right? Is that correct? Yeah. Yeah, so there's always an outlier. So that's what we say. It may not happen to you the way it happens to everybody, but it happens to 99.9% of the people that way. So you can't look at the outlier and follow after the outlier. You have to follow after the other people because the fact that it happened to that person that way is probably not going to happen to you that way, and that can put you in danger. And so you need to be careful. That doesn't mean it didn't happen that way to you, but it's not likely to happen that way to you. So, admit it to God, and then we have to admit to ourselves that we have these things in our these wrongs that we need to do, and then we need to admit it to another human being, the exact nature of our wrong. This is one of the reasons we do a lot of sharing in AA and stuff, because it's a hard thing to admit to another person that we're wrong. It's a hard thing to admit to another person that I am a liar. Anybody here a liar? I lie like a rug, man. I lied to everybody in my family. I lied like a rug. I'm amazed my mama didn't name me Persian because I lie like a Persian rug, But I'm in recovery from lying, so look, usually you can take me at what I'm saying. That doesn't mean that's always true, because sometimes I'm going to lie to you still, but I always repent it. So, it's kind of hard to do that. This is why we need a sponsor, and we need some other people, and that's not easy to do. It can be intimidating. We sit down with someone, typically with our sponsor, and review what we revealed about ourselves in step 4. We go over that. This step often takes place in a focus group, sitting in one-on-one discussions, or doing some stuff like that. That's why we have process group. Sometimes we do process group a little bit weird here, and we do that in all treatment facilities. I've been in a bunch of them, and we just process, talk about what we did in our on our treatment plan and stuff like that. And there's nothing in the world wrong with that. That's okay. However, process group 2 should be talking about my feelings, how I feel about this, some of these wrongs, some of these things that I need to pull out and do. So, the step 6 is preparing for the change. Because here's the deal, the reason we're doing all this is we want to have that change in our life. And so step 6 says we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Is lying a defect of character? Yeah, that ain't right in any kind of way. It's not good. It's not. How many times does somebody lie to you that you don't trust them? How many times?
I have a question.
Okay.
With that. What if the person that's lying to you, you know they're lying to you, you know they're gonna lie to you before they even speak, but that person is someone that you are obligated to have compassion and love for you do?
Well, here's the deal. You have compassion and love for them. Right. I'm going to tell you this. I'm obligated to love and have compassion on everybody here and everybody out there and everybody. Because I'm a Christian and my God tells me to love everybody. So I do. Even people who, and loving people doesn't mean that I have to like them.
Well, I'm speaking on like a child.
A child? You still are required to love them and to like them, but the big deal is trust. If one time somebody lies to you once, is trust broken?
Yes, sometimes.
It's always broken. Sometimes.
How do you get over that? And I'm speaking strictly of my oldest son.
It's really hard, because if you've lied to me now, you will lie to me again. And so here's the deal: if and I have people in my life who have lied to me, and I trust them. How do you do that? You have to make up your mind that I'm going to trust them, even though they've lied to me in the past. I'm going to trust them.
Okay, so what if the person that has lied to you is lying to you so that your feelings don't hurt?
They're lying to me to.
They're lying to you so that your feelings don't get hurt, or that you.
Oh yeah.
Like say for instance, my last relapse. I'm not going to tell my dad about it because I'm trying to build my trust, his trust with me. I'm trying to build that trust back. And him knowing that I had relapsed for 5 days is not going to help. As far as like what that brings me to, what comes up with my mind there is step number 9, except when so it injure them or others. You know, because that would injure him. You know, it would injure him greatly to know.
And I would, yeah.
And then drag for 5 days after that.
Yeah.
And then it aggravated the shit out of me that I would do something like that too. You know,
Right.
and I got by myself and isolated.
Sure.
I kept saying I was going into solitude, but I was isolated.
Well, let me share this with you. I have told you that I am in recovery from lying, so I'm not going to. I'm going to tell you the truth. Now, here's the deal: I'm not going to hurt you with the truth. Okay? If the truth that I know is going to hurt you, I'm just not going to tell you anything. I'm not going to do that. But see, if I know that I'm going to tell the truth, then I'm going to lead my life in such a way that I'm not ashamed to tell you what the truth. I'm not going to go do this and then, oh, well, I have to lie to that person to keep from hurting that person.
Some things are left better unsaid.
Yeah, some things are left better unsaid. And the 12 steps tells us, just like he said, some of those things, I got to make amends. I got to go tell them, unless to do so would hurt them. So I don't want to hurt them.
Is believing everybody in, like, you know, in the Word of God, it says that love believes all things.
Mm-hmm.
That is a difficult one for me, because I've been deceived so much in my life, being trained the way I have, is that that's difficult. I don't trust anybody. You know what I'm saying? I have to earn it, basically. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
I believe really not a whole lot about what I hear. Unless you're a teacher or something like that, teaching a class, of course. But it's just random people that.
Well, I'm a little careful about what I
You know what I'm saying, though?
hear. Yeah, but I do trust. I'm a trusting individual because that's like God told us. He said, believe all things, trust and do all of those things, and also to love all of those things. If I love you, I'm going to trust you. Now you can destroy that trust with one lie. If I know you're a liar, I've heard some people every 5 minutes things are different. Okay, you're this, you're that, you're this. All right, okay, and I know right away that person's just a liar. And so, okay, I'm not trusting anything that they say. I love them, but I don't trust them. So, me being in recovery from lying, I'm going to tell you the truth. I want you to believe it's the truth. Am I capable of lying?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, but it's not going to be usual. It's not something I'm going to do. So, we have had, look, this, we're at a place where we're preparing for change. We want God to remove our defects of character. So, we need to get to the place where we understand we have defects of character, and sometimes we can't take those away. We don't have the power to remove those defects of character. We come up with excuses. to keep our defects of character. Right? We come up, look, every claim that I've made cannot possibly be true. But I'm going to make another one more grandiose than the last. So, so we're going to continue to do that. We're going to keep our defects of character because we've used those defects of character to defend ourselves, to hide, to do all of those things so we don't want people to know our true self. So we need to get to the place where, okay, if God takes these defects of character away from me, then all right. Once he gets those defects of character, it's going to have to be God doing it. I'm a liar. I've been a liar. I want God to take that away from me. I'm lustful to an extreme. I want God to take that away. I can't deal with that on my own. He has to take that away from me. So I've asked him to do those things. So, phase 3, we're already on phase 3. Correcting our ways. This is steps 7 through 9. Correcting our ways. Now that we've reviewed our past and saw that we're not all that great, we're not all that in a bag of chips, we have reviewed our past and the problems that affected our drinking and using, and we're in turn affected by our alcohol and drug abuse. We move in this phase to dealing with those issues. This phase often represents the most visible result of these steps in our daily interactions. So step 7 says we humbly asking for removal of our shortcomings. We humbly ask him to remove our shortcomings. Who are we asking? God. We humbly ask God to remove these shortcomings. Just ask him to get rid of them. Take them away from us. Remove them. And look, here's the deal. We're going to be better for them being gone. So it's a little bit it's similar to step 5 this step continues the spiritual experience begun in our early steps. We figured out what's going on. We figured out what we have, what we need to have removed. We know in our knower we can't do it ourselves, so we've asked God to do it. And then step 8 is another real tough step because we need to make a list of all the people we've harmed, made a list of all persons we've harmed, and became willing to make amends to them all. So, who's the first person you put on your list? Yourself. Yeah, we've harmed ourselves badly. But how many people are you going to get on your list? My list got about 78 people on it. Pretty extensive list.
So you really suggest
physically make a list, yeah. I put myself on there first. I got 5 sisters, 2 brothers. I got a mommy and a daddy. I've got cousins. I've got employers that I work for. I've got other people. It's just tons and tons and tons of people. Anybody I ever did nasty stuff to, I wrote them down. Yeah, And then way down at the bottom of that, I put a little thing, unknown. And I don't know if that's necessary or anything, but there's people out there I did dirt to that I don't even remember. I don't know, but I know that I did it. So I put that down. There's people I did dirt to that I don't know their names. So they're just kind of unknown. So we need to make a list. And yes, it's a physical list, and I need to sit down and I need to write them all down, get them down there. Yeah. We name the person. If we can, we give details of the event that we have to make amends to. So, I told y'all the story about my sister's piggy bank. My eldest sister, who has since suffers from croakification, she had a piggy bank that was given to her from a little kid. But, I had a need, so I stole it, broke it, and used what was in there. And it bought me about 3 bottles of booze. So, I never could really, never could really make amends to her really well on that. She just didn't That was something that was a personal little goodie of hers that she's never going to have. So, we list a person, harm we've done them. People may well appear several times on the same list. Or you can put the same person on there 15 times. I lied to her, stole from her, and all of this kind of stuff. Just really some bad stuff. And look, what if you have a list and you can't remember them? So, okay, what if the people that you have to make amends to have died? Or moved away or something like that?
Take it to God again.
Yeah, you can pray about it. You can, I have prayed about all of those people, and I have gone to graves and talked to them while they're, in the grave and all of that kind of stuff to make that. It's a whole lot easier to make amends to a person when they're dead. They don't usually have much to say, So we made a list of all those persons, became willing to make amends. What does it mean making amends?
I got a question.
Okay.
So what if, say it like, if you wrong somebody that you were in your addiction with, do you suggest going and making amends with that? Or do you think that's better to let there?
Well,
Wrong.
the next thing.
Can I help with that real quick? Because I just went through my steps with my sponsor, and I had the same issue.
Sure.
I have my sponsor right there with me, and we make a phone call with my sponsor right there with me.
Well, that'll work.
It's very important to make amends. What these steps with the sponsor. Anyways, that's all.
That'll work if you have the feeling that you need to make that amends that badly. But there's another thing here that says, look, made direct amends. I went directly to that person. I didn't send somebody. I did not text them. I usually don't call them. I go directly to that person, eyeball to eyeball, to make amends to them. That's the best way to do it to such people. And then it says, whenever possible. If they're dead, it's not really possible. I can only make myself feel better at that. Except the last part of that says, except when to do so would injure them or others. Who are the others? Yourself is part of that others. So if I'm going to go to this person because we got drunk together 1,900 times and I stole his girlfriend during one of those times, then but if I go back to make amends to him and tell him how sorry I was and all of that kind of stuff, but it's going to trigger me to use, I'm not going. Because that's going to harm me. And I'm not going to go and put my sobriety, my recovery in jeopardy to do that. So I'm not going to do that. I had a guy who had sexual relations with his brother's wife. And so y'all go ahead. You got business? Get her done. Get your business done.
Now that you caught me, hell no, that ain't
But he did not go and make amends. Because to make amends, and that couple are still married today. They were both high. Stuff happened. They're all in their recovery now. They're doing well. That's not that would be terrible. That would be horrible. So you got to make sure that if I'm going to go make amends, that it's not going to be harmful to the other person. So we got to go a direct amends, except to do so would harm them, and we need to decide whether to make them based on this possibility. So we need to make amends only if they're not going to be hurt. That step deepens our spiritual experience and peace of mind. So, I missed one. We may not, we're going to go real fast because I want to get this finished. But phase 4 is steps 10 and 10 through 12. And this daily part of our lives, step 10 says, look, have a daily personal inventory. Continue to take personal inventory. And when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. And I do that every day. I take a daily inventory. What did I do? Where did I screw up today? And then usually I'm doing that on the way home. Sometimes I do it as the day progresses. If I do something, say something, I go to my office, I think about it, and I think, man, I shouldn't have said that to Mr. Washington. And I come back in, I say, dude, immediately, I'm going to go and love on him and let him know, hey, I apologize. Do those things. So I'm going to do that. It needs to be part of this personal inventory becomes a part of our daily lives in recovery. That's going to be helpful for us to do that in our daily life every day. Step 11 says improving your conscious contact. So sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. So it kind of pulls the group out and the doorknob out. It says, look, I want to improve my conscious contact with God. Praying only for knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry that out. I just want to know, I want to stay in contact with God. It's, step deepens our spiritual experience, brings us peace of mind. And then the last step says we're carrying this message. And this again is spiritual in nature. It says having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and addicts and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. See, not only in our staying sober, we practice these principles in everything. In our business life, in our relationships, in everything we do. And this will help us. The one big thing we need to know to make all of this effective is honesty. If you're not honest, this ain't going to work. I've had tons and tons of people tell me, hey, it don't work for me. Okay, 2 things. First off, AA doesn't work for everybody. There's some people it just doesn't work. Secondly, if you're not honest, it's never going to work. You have to be honest when you do it. So questions, comments, or snide remarks? Man, I almost tell you. Well, I appreciate y'all. You did good. There's some good interaction there, and I thank you for that. I'm going to go make some copies of this. I know I need about 4, so if you need some, let me know. I'll over there if you need some.